Record on the computer. Good morning and welcome. This is Stuart Fields, and I'd like to welcome you all today to today's webinar. It is, one sec. It's really exciting to be here with you. I've got great information to share. In fact, I'm going to be giving you proven strategies for building the kind of life, lifestyle, career, and future that you've been yearning for. If life is feeling welcome. We are just starting right now. We're rolling, so feel free. I've probably got you on mute. If we do have an opportunity to take yourself off mute, I'll have that allowance later. My plan is to go for about 50 minutes, and as we roll forward, I will save some time for question and answer at the end. I would like to share with everyone that the material that I'm using today is courtesy of Jack Canfield and the Success Principles. It's really super exciting material. I'm very happy to be part of the Jack Canfield trainer group. And this will be a year that I'm going through transformation. And I have been allowed permission to use this material, and I am more than happy to share it with you. So with that, I'm going to go back to my script. I am using a medium that I am familiar with, but not for webinars. So there might be a couple of hiccups along the way. This is a beta test group, and I appreciate all of you being here. So buckle your seatbelts, sit back and relax, enjoy the ride. As we go along, I understand that people might be dropping in, dropping out, but I do like to start on time. So again, this is Stuart Fields, and I'd like to welcome everybody today. I've got some really exciting information to share with you, and I'm going to be giving you proven strategies for building the kind of life, lifestyle, career, and future that you've been yearning for. If you feel that life is a bit stagnant right now, or you feel as if you're just going through the motions every day and nothing is really changing, I want to take you through a process that will help you to start dreaming again. And I want to give you the proven process for getting from where you are now to where you want to be. These proven strategies that I'll be sharing are already being used by top achievers around the world, people who've succeeded wildly in business, philanthropy, sports, entertainment, science, and more. They've got awesome lifestyles, terrific relationships, fascinating causes that are important to them, all the money they need, and of course, they've got the freedom of making their own schedule and focus on the things that they want to do. I want that for you too, which is why I'm happy to have you with me today to go through this proven formula. It's just a matter of following the steps. There are 4 steps in all. And if you had a chance to download or print out the R Factor handout, you'll see that here. Then you'll see that there are worksheets that you can do on your own and on your own time for each of the 4 steps. So with that, let's get started. The first step to creating a different future is actually an equation that changes everything. E plus R equals O, which stands for event plus response equals the outcome. When I first learned this equation, I responded to life's events as they came up. If I got a flat tire, I responded with frustration. If my bank account was in trouble, I was miserable. If there was bumper-to-bumper traffic when I was running late for a meeting, I blamed the traffic. That was until I learned this equation for responding differently to life's events when they came up. Here's the reality. Events just happen. Often you can't control them, because they materialize as the result of specific situations, other people's emotions, timing, the economy, the weather, a million other details that are outside of your control. Events just happen. But what most people do when faced with events is they feel harassed and stressed. They do anything just to make the situation go away. That's reactionary, and unfortunately, it often produces an outcome they don't want. So what's their first inclination? To blame the event for their bad outcome. Unfortunately, blaming the event for producing a negative in your life puts all the power outside of your control. There's nothing you can do about external events. They happen. That's the reality. So the only way to get a good outcome is respond in a way that will bring about the outcome that you want. And let me just share an example. I have been in the training and development field for several decades, probably going on 3 decades now. And it's been both in academic and in the corporate environment. Now, when you're in training and development, you're usually the first department that gets cut when there's a downsizing, resizing, right sizing, or workforce rebalancing efforts, usually due to the economy. And I've experienced that 4 times. The first 3 times, it was like hitting a wall. You know, the rug's pulled out from underneath you. You've got nothing to replace that lost income from that corporate environment that you've been relying on. You've got bills to pay, and that was my case. The first 3 times, it was a challenge. My sister always says that I land on my feet like a cat. So I came out of it. It might have taken me 3 months, 6 months, a year, but I eventually found a new position to replace it. The last time, 2008, I decided to respond differently. It was not long after that I discovered this formula and realized that I had reframed my experience. I was applying the E plus R equals O principle. What I did instead is came home, got a bottle of wine, shared it with my wife, and said, let's celebrate a new beginning. That really launched now going on 11 years of being self-employed, independent, and my wife is also self-employed. So we've got some challenges that go with that, but mostly the freedom also that it provides. And it is really a matter of just reframing. So today, the first step in this life-changing formula that I've been talking about is taking responsibility for how you respond to events, to mishaps, catastrophes, but especially for how you respond to opportunities that come up. This doesn't mean that you have to take responsibility for the event itself. That's usually out of your hands or out of your control. But how you respond is 100% within your control. And it's one leverage point where you can change what you get out of life. So taking more responsibility for your responses is the first and most important step toward creating more success in our lives. You can be thoughtful and deliberate, or you can be frustrated and reactive and emotional. It's always your choice. And what's so terrific about this concept is that it puts control back in your hands. This is especially important when opportunities come up, opportunities for you to get ahead and to achieve what you want. Do you know that some people react emotionally when an actual opportunity presents itself? They complain that the timing isn't right, or that they're not ready, or that it will require a lot of work to respond to the opportunity, or that they don't have the money right now. You'd be surprised at the complaints you'll hear from some people when an opportunity arises. But here's the second point about the E plus R equals O equation. You have to give up blaming and complaining about the event and focus on how you respond appropriately and positively. Getting back to the negative event that happened, what do most people do? They complain, tend to complain to the wrong person. For example, if I'm upset that my boss, Erica, has given me a ton of extra work to finish by tomorrow morning, I complain to my coworker, Stephen. And if I'm upset with my spouse for spending on a major purchase without consulting me, I complain to my best friend. That doesn't solve anything because you're complaining to the wrong person. It's wasted energy. I need to tell Erica that her timing or prioritization of projects is unworkable, and we need a better system of scheduling. I need to tell my spouse that I want to create a household budget so that major purchases are planned and paid for before we make the decision to buy. If I speak to the right person instead of the wrong person, the right person can do something about it. They have the feedback that I would like something different. Of course, that person won't always grant my request, but at least communicating with my request is the first step to actually getting what I want. This is just mature decision making. It's relationship management 101. But what about natural disasters and other events that don't involve individual people? I can respond differently to those events too. Right now, as I look outside, it's in the teens or even single digits. So when I walked my dog this morning, I booted up. And I booted up the dog and I booted up me. And wore about 3 layers of pants and 3 layers of tops, and I took a nice 20-minute walk. Came back and meditated, but it was not much I can do about the weather, but I can do something about it. The dog needs walking, and it just is the reality of what we have here in Wisconsin. I can leave an extra 20 minutes for accounting for traffic if there are meetings that I'm attending and I know the traffic might be bad. I can keep up on economic news and put extra savings aside. Welcome. We're in the middle of a webinar, so feel free to join in. Right now, I'm just sharing part of this concept of the E plus R equals O. This will be recorded, so you can come back and watch the first part later as we move forward. So welcome. Thank you for coming in. So I can keep up with economic views by following the news. If there is a recession predicted, I can upgrade my skills so that I'm valuable as a management team member, or is my company might get bought out, or at least I've got some reserve cash for the recession that might be coming. I can have the right kind of healthy foods in my refrigerator so that I'm not eating or grabbing junk food on the run because I'm too busy to shop or cook. Instead of spending most of our time blaming things outside of ourselves, the weather, our boss, the traffic, the economy, or the current president, we can take action in advance and be prepared. We can devise ways to increase our options should this disaster occur. Whatever the outside world throws at us, we have to stop blaming something outside of ourselves. Realize that we have the opportunity to control our responses. Taking more responsibility for our responses to events is the first and most important step toward creating more success in our lives. So I'm going to just pause for a minute and acknowledge that there are a number of folks that are still joining us. We started at 10. I do like to start on time, and as people may still be coming in, you'll probably hear a ringing in the background or a dinging. That is just somebody entering in. And I just want to welcome those that have arrived maybe a few minutes late. Something's happening that prevented you from being here right at the top of the hour. That's okay. And I am going to run up until about the top of the hour again. 11 o'clock is what I anticipate for this. That is on Central Time. I know that there's some folks in Eastern Time as well. So after that, I will leave this open for questions and answers. Happy to continue on, and I've actually reserved an extra 30 minutes or so for that after this presentation. But there's a lot of content to share. I'm going to keep rolling. So the next step is yellow alerts. And an important part of taking responsibility is not being a victim in life. It's watching out for something I call these yellow alerts, or Jack kind of frames yellow alerts. These yellow alerts are yellow alerts are little events or comments or recurring situations that you notice that act as clues that something is happening or about to happen, or maybe it's not going to work out in your favor. Here's an example. I might hire a personal assistant, let's say Sarah, and 2 months later, she says, I'm thinking about marrying that wonderful guy that lives in the Bahamas. Now, looking outside, Wisconsin, snow on the ground, I can understand that, but I ignore it. All right. A month later after that, Sarah says she's really falling more in love with this guy, and she also hates the cold weather here in Wisconsin. A few weeks after that, she's buying bridal magazines and looking for real estate in Nassau. Then, surprisingly, all of a sudden, Sarah quits, and I'm surprised because I'm unprepared and scrambling at that point for a new admin solution because I wasn't paying attention to the yellow alerts that Sarah was giving me all along. Now, there are lots of yellow alerts in your life, like your teenager comes home late at night, smelling of, well, who knows what. And senior executives from the head office have been repeatedly visiting your department with no explanation. Or maybe your biggest client has been giving projects that are ideal for you to other consultants. You wonder, well, what's going on here? But you don't want to say anything because that would be uncomfortable. Unfortunately, because mature conversations and inquiries and taking action is inconvenient or uncomfortable, we tend to deny the yellow alerts rather than acting upon them. And rather than act upon them in time, clearly. The truth is we're almost always given clues that things are coming. We are not the victims here. So are you acting on those yellow alerts? So I'd like to direct your attention to two different exercises in the workbook. Again, I'm going to just reference that here. You've got the R factor that was provided to you. And if you don't have your workbook yet, you can download it after this webinar is over by going back to the link that was in your confirmation email where you registered for today's webinar. You don't need your workbook to do any exercises right now, but to get the most benefit from today's class, please do these exercises sometime this week. It's always important to follow up on that. The first exercise I want to explain is something called difficult or troubling situation analysis. Just like an unexpected event, we all experience ongoing troubling situations from time to time. It's part of life. No matter how well you prepare to avoid these hardships, they sometimes simply happen. And if not addressed, they can trouble you for years. It's far easier to resolve the situation and move on. In my corporate group classes, I like to talk about the dead moose in the middle of the floor. And this proverbial, it's a metaphor, but very often there's that dead moose in the middle of the floor and it's starting to stink, but nobody's talking about it. So let's bring it back to maybe situations that we can identify with. What kind of situations am I talking about? A teenager or a sibling who's not speaking to you. A financial difficulty that's getting worse every day. A health condition that's annoying, nagging, or uncomfortable. A tense atmosphere in the office. That sneaking suspicion that your spouse is being unfaithful. The key is to respond to the event, whether it's a sudden or a long-standing event, with a commitment to resolving it so that you can move on to creating better outcomes in the future. The difficult or situation analysis will get you past a current situation so you can focus on your success again. The exercise has full instructions in the workbook, but it essentially asks you to analyze the payoffs or benefits you get for keeping the situation like it is. And there's a lot of people that, even if it's negative, there are costs of keeping it like it is. So what are the negative costs? And what your part in creating it or allowing it to be like it is? What actions could you take or requests might you make to get what you want instead? Don't fail to respond to a troubling situation because it's easier, more convenient, less uncomfortable, less confrontational. It keeps the peace, doesn't require taking risks. Rather, take action. Don't allow negative outcomes to be your fate. So in the same way, you don't want to fail to respond to a yellow alert because it's easier or more convenient or less confrontational. There's a second exercise in your workbook called What Are You Pretending Not to Know? If you're experiencing negative outcomes in your life, perhaps you're ignoring the facts or excusing your part in creating a problem. To help you identify areas to take corrective action or to take action and prevent eventual disaster, the exercise asks you to examine each area of your life and determine if there is a problem that you are ignoring or creating. You might be ignoring something to do with your health, or your money, or your family, or your lifestyle, or your career. Whatever it is, this exercise will help you respond to the yellow alerts before something disastrous occurs. Topic 2. Deciding what you want. So the next critical step in the proven success formula that I've introduced at the beginning of this webinar is that you have to decide what you want. One of the most amazing phenomena you'll ever experience is you incorporate this formula into your daily life is the unexpected phone call, the financial windfall benefit, or the uncanny new acquaintance that brings you exactly what you want or need in order to achieve your goals, almost as if it were planned. It really is an interesting phenomenon when we just connect to the greater powers that might be. Perhaps it's the universe rewarding your new take action attitude by harnessing all the forces at your disposal. Or perhaps you've worked hard and grown yourself to the point where you're finally ready to receive the benefit which has been waiting in the wings all along. But more probably, as researchers now believe, it may simply be a matter of your subconscious mind focusing on and recognizing opportunity when it arrives. Whatever the explanation, the reality is what you want. that what you want wants you. Your goals and needs, your desires are patiently waiting to gravitate toward you once you decide what you truly want. Of course, the reason that most people don't get what they want is they haven't decided what that want is. They haven't defined their goals exactly in clear, compelling detail. After all, how else can your mind know where to begin looking, seeing, and hearing if you don't give it specific, detailed goals to achieve? There's a very powerful technique for helping you to define what you want in vivid detail. I'll be taking you through that technique in just a moment. Uh, but before defining the ideal life you want for yourself, here's a word of caution. Make sure that your wants are personally important to you, not those you believe should be important, or those that the world expects you to have, or something your mother wants you to focus on, but what's truly important to you from the deepest place in your heart. Don't live someone else's dream. Unfortunately, the sad reality for most people is they simply aren't honest with themselves. If they were, they would realize their shoulds are almost always less interesting and more hassle than what they truly want. Here's an example. Many people who have become social media influencers or industry experts were working dull jobs and following a career that other people thought was fantastic. But their lives didn't really become thrilling or fulfilling or meaningful or even lucrative until they started a decorating blog or started consulting with small businesses or started writing cookbooks. Once they were living the life they truly wanted, all the necessary opportunities showed up, including the money. So, one of the easiest ways to begin deciding what you truly want is to ask a friend to help you make a list. Have the friend continually ask you, what do you want? What do you want? For about 10 to 15 minutes while jotting down your answers. Now, I've done this multiple times with different friends in my coaching, and I have found that this is a powerful, powerful technique. It works really well. The friend remains consistent to it, and it keeps on asking the same question. Not offering any coaching advice, just asking that question again. You'll find that the first once that you run through aren't all that profound. In fact, most people hear themselves saying, I want a Mercedes, I want a big house on the ocean, and so on. But by the end of the 15-minute exercise, the real you begins to speak. Things like, I want people to love me. I want to make a difference. I want to be significant in my field. Ones that are true expressions of your heartfelt desires. So that's a quick exercise you can do with a friend and then trade places. Help them make their own list of wants too. But to really create your definite list, I want you to turn to the page in the workbook and find an exercise called the vision exercise. And it will help you decide what you want to be, do, or have in the 7 major areas of your life. So this is the vision exercise, and it's also located in your workbook. It's an exercise that you can do privately or just alone. You start by putting on some relaxing music and sitting quietly in a comfortable environment where you won't be disturbed. Then close your eyes and ask your subconscious mind to give you images of what your ideal life would look like if you were living it exactly as you want. Visualize your life in 7 key areas. So this is the how to get from where you are to what you want to be script, and I'm going to work through that right now with you. Hang on. Skipped a page. Sorry about that. So the different areas of your life, and as you can see on page 9 of that workbook, you'll find that it is your career and personal life, your finances, recreation and free time, your body and physical health, your relationships, your personal growth, and your community work. Those are the different areas to focus on. As you go through the exercise, you'll be defining what you want to do and have in each of these areas. There are ideas, prompts, and memory joggers in each section for you to look at, and to help you think about what you might want in your ideal life. But your subconscious mind knows that which you want, and that should be the ultimate source of ideas for you. Even if you don't have the workbook with you, let's do a little bit of this exercise right now. Okay, Alexa, play classical music for relaxation.
Classical music for relaxation by various artists on Amazon Music.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this. So you relax. I'd like you to close your eyes now. If it's safe. If you're driving, please just listen to the recording later. So as long as you're safe and able to do this, I want you to sit back, close your eyes, and relax. Begin breathing deeply. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Take another breath. And another. Now imagine you are in your ideal home environment. Where is it located? What is the view outside the windows? What are the colors of the main living areas? What kind of decor or art objects do you have in your home? Is there music playing in the background? How do you feel as you stroll through the rooms of your ideal home? Now come back slowly and open your eyes. Ground yourself. Realize the environment once again around you. Feet on the floor. Feel your body in the chair. What you just did was an example of the vision exercise you'll be doing later in the workbook. It takes time. Don't rush it. If you don't immediately see the images of the different areas in your life, that's perfectly okay. It still works just as well if you are just thinking about the elements versus actually seeing yourself in those environments. Let your mind wander a bit, dream a little. When the ideas come to you, write them down in the workbook. Many people set aside an evening to do the rest of this exercise. So tonight, after this webinar, is a great time to get started on this lengthy exercise. But it's an important one because they will ultimately form a goals list of the things that you would like to work on. Okay, here's the really good news. Those wants that you'll be identifying later in your workbook are achievable. In fact, almost everything that we want, somebody else has already done it, created it, owned it, or achieved it. So there's not much of what we want anymore that's so lofty that it can't be accomplished. But the key to getting what you want, and here is step 3 of the formula, is to set goals around the things that you want to be, do, and have. How do we set a goal? By writing it in a way that it's specific and measurable. That is, someone other than you can know for certain whether you've achieved the goal or not. For example, if you hand it to a 6th grader, they can read it and understand it and know if you've achieved it or not. If you said, I want to own a house on the beach someday, that's a nice dream or desire that you have. But to make it into a specific and measurable goal, you need more information. And you need to state it in a way that there is certainty that you'll have that beach house one day. Like this: I will own a 4,000 square foot home on the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California by 12 o'clock midnight, April 30th, 2025. Do you hear the difference? The first time, I want a house on the beach versus I will own a 4,000 square foot home on a Pacific highway in Malibu, California by 12 o'clock midnight, April 30th, 2025. Do you hear the difference? The second version of your goal tells your brain exactly what it is you want to achieve, not just a vague, dreamy hope. If you want to retire early with millions of dollars invested, for example, state the exact amount you'll have invested on the exact date you plan to retire. As part of the vision exercise in the workbook, you'll be turning all of your wants into specific and measurable goals that you can begin working on achieving. That's exercise number 4. And here's a bonus idea. Why not create minimum goals, target goals, and outrageous goals? Whenever you write down your specific and measurable goals, set 3 different levels that you want to achieve. Let's say you want to build a large savings account and get out of debt. A minimum goal might be putting together a $1,000 emergency fund in the next 30 days. A target goal might be to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses in the next 8 months. An outrageous goal might be to pay off all of your consumer debt and even your mortgage in the next 7 years. The outrageous goal is always something that would just blow your mind if you achieved it. Your target goal is usually something within your capabilities, and your minimum goal is something that you're almost guaranteed to reach, but it gets you going and taking action. Whereas an outrageous goal might seem too overwhelming even to start. So it's, easing into it, if you will. What happens with this minimum target option formula is that most people start with the minimum, then they get motivated and end up reaching their target goal very easily. Have you ever said, I'm going to just get rid of those old dishes stored in the garage? The next thing you know, you've cleaned out the entire garage and even called a local charity to haul away a truckload of cast offs. It's really just a matter of getting started. You could even delegate the entire garage cleanup to a professional organizer or trade with a friend by doing something for them. That would achieve your target goal for certain. While goal setting is an important step to achieving the wants in your dream list, most of the goals that we set focus on improving our life in the moment. Things like get the house painted, finish my sales report, clean up the laundry room, lose 20 pounds. But what if instead you focused on a single goal that would up level everything that you do, from your career to your career network to your income to your lifestyle? Wouldn't that be a goal worth pursuing with passion? Wouldn't that be something to focus on a little each day until you achieved it? Think about it. If you were an independent sales professional and knew you could get a substantial bonus commission and maybe even make a promotion once you landed a certain number of customers, wouldn't you work at it day and night to achieve that goal? If you were a stay at home mom whose entire lifestyle and finances would change by earning an extra $3,000 a month, wouldn't you pursue every possible opportunity for side work or owning your own part time business to achieve that goal? That's what I mean by a breakthrough goal. Something that changes your life, brings you new opportunities, gets you in front of the right people, and up levels every activity, relationship, or group you're involved in. What might your single breakthrough goal be? There's an exercise in the workbook that will help you decide. But for the purposes of this webinar, whether you believe you can achieve it or not, what one single change in your career, business, lifestyle, or relationships would boost you up to the next level? Is it landing a promotion, changing jobs, expanding your business, finding your soulmate, qualifying for an award, going back to school, moving across country, retiring early, or some other goal? Take time later to think about your breakthrough goal, and then you'll find that in your workbook, there is a page that will help you figure it out and jot it down. And look for exercise number 5, and you'll find it there. Affirmations. I want to finish our discussion of goal setting by talking about a technique that will help you achieve the major goals in record time. It's a way to get your brain focused on assembling the resources, people, money, and circumstances needed that will help you bring about these everyday goals, and especially your breakthrough goal. It's called affirmations. Affirmations are vividly detailed statements of your living, working, and enjoying life as if your goals have already been achieved. Affirmations help the brain focus on bringing about your heartfelt desires. One example of an affirmation is, I'm happily depositing my $100,000 royalty check as a best selling author. Another affirmation is, I'm joyful receiving the company top sales award. How do affirmations work? Is scientists now know the brain is a goal seeking organism. It, if you give a compelling, colorful, crystal clear image of what you want, it will work day and night to create the opportunities, contacts, resources, and circumstances needed to achieve that vision. In fact, the brain has a special function called the reticular activating system that filters through millions of impressions, images, messages, and thoughts it processes each day and passes to your subconscious mind the specific information. Hang on a sec. Affirmations. There we go. I just lost my spot. Gives me a chance to breathe. Back to reticular activating system. So the reticular activating system really helps you identify the information that you need to achieve your goal. For example, if you've ever thought about speaking at an industry convention or is a way to boost your career, then immediately remembered you met the education director last month at a trade show. That's your reticular activating system bringing you ideas and contacts that can help you achieve your goal. Reciting your affirmations frequently throughout the day actually focuses your brain on the goals you want to achieve. Writing them out on index cards, note cards, or your smartphone's note wallpaper, wherever you happen to have it, maybe a sign at the bottom of your bathroom mirror or other places where you can see it frequently, it helps you constantly focus on your most important goals. My best advice is to write out your specific and measurable goals on 3x5 cards, then review the cards in the morning when you first wake up and again at night before you fall asleep. You don't always have to know how you'll accomplish the goal. Just keep visualizing it in the future as if you had already achieved it. It's also powerful to add colors, sounds, emotions, and other sensory aspects to your visualization on time. As you review your cards, try to experience the feeling of confidence as you deliver that keynote address at your industry's annual conference, or the scent of cinnamon rolls baking at the bed and breakfast hotel that you've recently opened, or maybe the sounds of waves breaking at the senior executives retreat in Hawaii, or the joy you'll feel as you're living out your dream career or professional accomplishment. Repetition is the key. The workbook, the workbook includes detailed guidelines to help you write powerfully effective affirmations for your unique situation, using your goals in previous exercises about what you want to be, do, and have. And just look for exercise 6 in the workbook and you'll find it there. Of course, we come to the most important step in the original 4-part formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. It's step number 4. Take action on your goals. Sometimes our biggest life goals seem so overwhelming. Though we may be working hard to achieve them, too often we decide to put them off altogether until we have more time, more focus, more energy, more manpower. We rarely see our goals as a series of small tasks, but in reality, breaking the goal down into smaller tasks and accomplishing them a few at a time is precisely how any big goal gets achieved. By breaking down your goal into a bite-sized pieces or baby steps, you can begin accomplishing the small tasks that you've determined will lead to achieving this goal. But being aware, preparing to move forward isn't the same as taking action itself. In other words, preparation, research, planning, and getting it perfect, these are all areas where people get bogged down and never actually start taking action. They're getting too busy getting ready. But one way that I recommend that you actually start to take action on your goals is something that I call chunking it down. Uh, instead of saying I'm going to go to the gym and start working out and lose all kinds of weight, that's not very specific. Maybe you can start by buying a pair of tennis shoes. Shopping for shoes can be fun. And then next week you might actually show up at the gym. And don't go in, just figure out where it is, drive your car. You might the following week get out of the car and take a few steps towards the door. Break it down into something so ridiculously small that's impossible to fail. Those small steps along the way will help you get where you want to be by chunking it down into doable bite-sized pieces. You can eat an entire watermelon a bite at a time. So the rule of five and is something that I've recently reincorporated in my life. And if you had a target goal of saving up to 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses and emergency fund, a sample goal that we mentioned earlier, what steps could you now do to pull money together over the next 8 months? Could you, number one, determine the amount of money per month that you would need? Number two, identify what portion of your current savings that you might use for this special fund. Number three, make a list of the sources to save as much of your overtime pay or holiday bonus. Number four, make a list of the unused items that you could sell on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Number five, open a new savings account for this money before starting to earn and sell those things. Those 5 steps, which are essentially research and making lists and going to the bank, are all things that you could do in just one day. All those 5 steps. In fact, probably in an afternoon. By making lists of what needs to be done, you've effectively chunked down all tasks into small steps that are doable and achievable, which leads me to a helpful strategy for taking action. And that is to practice something called the rule of five. And this is what I just referenced earlier. The rule of five simply means that every day you do 5 specific things that will move you towards your goal of completion. Bigger goals might take longer, but the rule of five still applies. Do 5 things every day until your goal is achieved. Take buying a house in Hawaii, for example. That's a big goal, but chunking it down to doing 5 things a day still applies. You have to find out where the best locations are, decide which island you want to live on, find out how much houses are there, and determine how much money you'll need to save. Research where you can get your financing, decide where you'll get your furniture, determine the repairs or decorating budget you'll need, and on and on and on. You can break it down into smaller pieces. Once you decide all these things and chunk each larger goal into smaller steps, you can begin taking action on these steps. 5 steps a day until you achieve your goal. While he didn't call it the rule of five, a seminar leader I once that I know once said that in order to arrive at the end of your dreams or to create the life of your dreams, you simply make a wish list of the activities, finances, and lifestyles that you'll be enjoying once you get there. You break down each wish on a list of those steps that you'll need to achieve it. Choose a number of those steps to achieve each week or month or year and achieve them. That's the game plan we're talking about. And this will help you achieve that life of your dreams or for achieving virtually any impressive goal that you've set out for yourself. Is there something that hinders people from taking any action at all? Of course. One thing is the feeling that they can't accomplish even the smallest baby steps. They don't feel confident. Another is that they feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that they have to do. And a third is that they have to ask something of someone in order to move forward. Is asking something that they're simply afraid to do. That they're afraid to ask. So let's address these obstacles right now. I'm going to start with the second one mentioned, that most people feel overwhelmed by the amount of tasks that they already have to do. Most of us have incompletes and messes in our household, in our relationships, our families, our finances, and other major areas of our life. We've got overflowing closets and broken screen doors and 6 years worth of tax paperwork and bills that aren't filed, and a fight with our sibling that's still unresolved, and a nagging health condition that we need to address, and on and on and on. We have incompleted tasks and messes that aren't even cleaned up. So, one way to stop feeling overwhelmed by what you already have to do is to clean up these messes and incompletes first. It's especially important to handle these incompletes because of what psychologists call attention units. You can only attend to 7 things at once. Beyond that, you can't. So when you have a cluttered desk, you're constantly seeing all of these papers and unanswered letters and 3,000 emails in your inbox. These things steal your focus away from the other tasks that you want to accomplish. You look over your mental to do list and think, oh, I should move that, or I should put that away, or I need to answer that. The more incompletes you have in your life, the more focus and creative energy gets fractured and scattered. It's like having little fish hooks in your brain pulling one way or another way. Each one is an incomplete mess that you need to finish or clean up. The other reason it's important to clean up your messes and your incompletes is that doing so builds your self confidence and self esteem. When we have a list of incompletes in our life, we're consciously or unconsciously judging ourselves as incompetent or incapable because we haven't completed them. Every time you look at these messes, they're reflecting back to us the message, you aren't handling me. We're afraid to handle them or don't know how to handle them. And this fear and lack of knowledge compromises our feeling of competence. By handling those incompletes, we get more time in our lives to focus on those steps that will bring about the really important goals and dreams that we have. So take the time to put all of your incompletes and messes down on one list, either on paper or your computer. Walk around the house and note things room by room. Go through your stack of bills and find anything that's not handled yet. Share with your spouse any family relationships that are in bad shape. Once you have these things listed, you can prioritize them. Then tackle them one a month or one per quarter. You don't have to think about the others at that time because you know they're on the list and they'll be handled in the order of their importance. You can even apply the minimum target optimum model to these messes. What's the minimum goal for the smallest incomplete that you will commit by handling this weekend? What's a larger mess or incomplete that you can make a target goal to handle this month? And what's an outrageous goal that you could handle, such as an incomplete home renovation over the next 90 days? Handling incompletes and messes boosts your confidence and creates available attention span in your life to tackle uh, the 5 things a day that you want to do to reach your really big goals. So, again, cleaning up messes is really important. But let's address the third roadblock that keeps people from taking action on their goals. That is, they lack confidence when asking for what they want, what they need from people, or who can help them reach their goals. Asking for the help that you need is still a challenge that holds many people back. Why are people so afraid to ask? We are afraid for several things. We're afraid of looking needy, looking foolish, looking ignorant, but most importantly, we're afraid of experiencing rejection. We are afraid of hearing the word no. The sad thing is that when we don't ask, we are actually rejecting ourselves in advance. We are saying no to ourselves before anyone has a chance to. But there's an illustration to think about. If you apply to Harvard and you don't get in, you weren't in Harvard before you applied, and you're not in Harvard after you applied. Your life didn't get worse. And think about it. You spent your whole life not going to Harvard, and you know how to handle that. Someone telling you no doesn't make your situation any worse. It just keeps it the same. Well, there's a specific science to asking for and getting what you want or need in the pursuit of your goals. Here are some quick tips to get you more comfortable with asking. Number one, ask as if you expect to get it. Ask with a positive expectation. Ask from the place that you already have been given it. It's a done deal. Ask as if you expect to get a yes. Number two, assume that you can. Don't start with the assumption that you can't get it. If you are going to assume you can get an upgrade. Assume you can get a table by the window. Assume that you're going to return it without a sales slip. Assume that you can get a raise or that promotion. Don't ever assume against yourself. Number 3, ask someone who can give it to you. Qualify the person. Determine for yourself, who would I have to speak to get this accomplished? Who is authorized to make a decision about that? Who do I have to speak with to get whatever it is you're asking for? Number 4, be clear and specific. Too many people are walking around wanting more money, more love, more help around the house, and more recognition at work, more of everything, but they're not being specific. Do you want enough money to retire? Do you want to go on a date a night twice a month? Do you want the kids' bedrooms picked up every Friday and the laundry done by Saturday morning? If you're not sure about the specifics, do the research of what it takes and make specific requests. Number 5, ask repeatedly. Never give up. Whenever we ask others to participate in the fulfillment of our goals, some people are going to say no. They may have other priorities, commitments, and reasons not to participate. It's no reflection on you. Just get used to the idea that there's going to be a lot of rejection along the way to the brass ring. The key is to not give up. When someone says no, you say next. Which brings me to number 6, ask someone else. Remember, there are over 6 billion people, maybe close to 7 billion people on the planet. Somebody else has enough authorization, is skilled enough, knowledgeable enough, emotionally invested enough, or otherwise capable of saying yes to you. Don't get stuck in your fear. Move on to the next person, and the next person, and the next, and the next, until you connect with the person who can help you. It's a numbers game. You've probably heard that before. Someone is out there waiting to say yes. We've come to the end of today's webinar. As I had mentioned, I will open up your opportunity for question and answer as we're bringing this to a close. But I want to close with 2 things. Number 1 is I want you to choose right now one thing that you'll commit to doing to create the future that you deserve. Starting tonight, whether it's complete the decide what you want exercises in the workbook, write down your first 3x5 affirmation cards, or handle a difficult or troubling situation. Whatever it is, make a mental commitment now and share it with us by posting to the chat board on this webinar. When we share our goals, we'll be more likely to achieve them. So take a moment now and post your thoughts to the chat board. What are you committed to doing? Let's make it public. And with that, I am going to open up an opportunity for sharing. So you can unmute yourselves if you'd like. Well, hello. So I'm going to stop the recording, and those that are still with us, you're welcome to come back and watch this again to get the information. I will open for question and answers at this point, but the recording will stop, and it should be available in the next 48 hours or so. You'll be sent a link to get into that. Thank you. And thank everyone.